boy oh boy do I have a spicy video for you. Bowser's Fury recently came out as of now, and after 100%ing the game, I really struggled with what to do for a challenge. After a lot of pondering and thinking, I eventually decided to attempt beating the game while always crouching. Steve Gaming has done this with a few other Mario games, so I was inspired to try it out for myself. For the rules, I simply must be crouching and have to collect 50 shines to fight the final boss. As for other things I'm allowed to do, I can jump when crouching and also bounce off enemies, springs, and Bowser Jr. But I can only bounce off of them if the jump starts from crouching. I'm also allowed to ground pound since that's still basically crouching and keeps me in one spot, and sliding/swimming is okay as long as I don't jump off a wall or out of the water. What I am not allowed to do is normal jump, long jump, roll, climb up walls, or wall jump at any point in the run. I'm not sure if Steve's rules were as strict as mine, but I figured I might as well go all out. So is this challenge actually gonna be possible? Let's find out. After the incredibly fun beginning cutscene, Mario's head starts off in the mud. Once gaining control, I immediately start crouching and waddle my ways forward. I quickly learn that jumping while crouching is a lot faster than just walking, so I'll be doing this for most of the challenge. This first shine was simple enough, just hop up the stairs and touch it. Next is walking to Bowser Jr. and teaming up with him. And honestly, thank God we have to do this. You'll see why in a little bit. Since this is only my second time playing through Bowser's Fury, it took me quite a while to realize that I can use Bowser Jr. to my advantage. So at first, he doesn't do much but follow me around. If this invisible block wasn't here, getting up would have been much more difficult since I'm not allowed to climb. The condors were really annoying to get by because I wasn't allowed to slash them. And like I said, I didn't think of using Bowser Jr. like I should have, so I just jumped on their heads one by one instead. The real challenge, however, was this slant. I wasn't anywhere close to clearing it with a crouch jump. And since I'm crouching, of course I'm gonna slide down. My only idea to bypass this was to bounce off the Conchor's head for extra height. But not only do I have one attempt at it, it's also fairly precise. And the only way to spawn in Conchor again was to take a stock, which is really annoying. But I actually got it on the next attempt, and just in time too. In case you don't know, when Fury Bowser spawns in, he only goes away by collecting a catch shine, or by waiting for him to disappear, which can take quite a while sometimes. He actually spawns in faster with the more shines you collect. But anyway, up next was Pounce Bounce Isle, since this was a simple island to play normally. On the way up, I started to get some cat shards, but only the ones easily accessible. Before getting all the shards, I got the shine at the end of this area first. This jump was a bit scary, and this one was completely unnecessary since Bowser Jr. could have helped, but alas, we nabbed ourselves the next shine. Now I get to talk about one of the biggest time savers in this challenge, the amiibo. By scanning a Bowser amiibo, you can spawn Fury Bowser at pretty much any point instead of waiting for him. And lucky for us, there's some shines that requires Fury Bowser to break Bowser blocks, like this one right here. But before continuing for more shines, we have to complete the first Bowser fight. And what's super fascinating about these boss fights is Mario's entire moveset from the game is utilized, even when you're super big. So I'm still able to crouch and crouch jump while Bowser breathes fire and does all the shenanigans. All that I really have to do is wait for Bowser's shell drop move, then just crouch jump and ground pound. After doing that a few times, the fight is finished and we can continue on. Fort Flaptrap was our next destination, since I had a feeling some of these shines wouldn't be too bad. And they really weren't. I just had to debate the cat boys into falling into the pits, and the shine was quickly mine. I started to grab some cat shards as well, but left behind a couple because, again, I forgot Bowser Jr. could get them. Next was another easy Bowser block shine. And since I can't use Plessy, it was time to do a lot of swimming. And I mean a lot of swimming. I'm not going to talk about this again, but just keep in mind that I had to do this for a majority of the challenge just to travel, and it was extremely tedious. Now, yes, I could theoretically use Plessy without jumping, but then I would never be able to dismount Plessy, which would count as a normal jump. So, swimming it is. Since I was heading towards an island, I can enter it while crouching, so at least I don't have to jump out of the water. Next, I found this purple button, and it just required me to kill a bunch of enemies. I'm so glad there's a few of these shines, as I'm starting to get worried about what'll be possible and what won't. At Slipskate Slope, my worries really began with the cat shards. Some of them seem to be completely out of reach, which is a big problem when I know how many shines I already can't do. For now, I resorted to grabbing the shine at the end. Afterwards was another Bowser block shine, but this one wasn't going to be nearly as easy. Since I'm not allowed to jump out of the water, I have to somehow get to it from the island, and I obviously can't do a normal jump either. So it was time to activate Big Brain mode. I lured a Koopa towards the very edge of the island, and with a few attempts, bounced off the Koopa and barely scraped the edge to get the shine. I love doing stuff like this for challenge videos. It's so rewarding. This pipe ended up opening from Fury Bowser, so I took it and found another shine that was obtainable. However, I learned that I have to avoid these boost panels as it would force Mario to run, which obviously we don't want him doing. So about 2 minutes of very careful waddling later, I reached the shine. I've been avoiding Claw Swipe Coliseum due to its vertical nature, but I had to start going for the hard stuff sooner or later. But I also forgot that the Cat Boom Boom fight entry was at ground level, so that was easy enough to get to. Boom Boom, on the other hand, actually killed me. Yes, I'm serious and even a little embarrassed. Like, he's not even hard still. But I'm not gonna lie, crouch jumping still feels really awkward, so I wasn't used to it. I did get the shine the next try, however, and also got a cat shard on the way out. Trickety Tower was on the ballot next, and honestly, it wasn't that bad. Just a few careful jumps here and there, and oh yeah, I finally figured out that I can use Bowser Jr. Who would have thought? And the shine in the middle was of course a piece of cake to get. But this is where things get interesting. I needed to get into Crisp Climb Castle, but unfortunately, the island doesn't run into the ground with sand. Since I'm not allowed to jump up to the ice, I wasn't really sure what to do. I figured that if I touched Bowser's black goo next to the island, then maybe Mario would load at the entrance of the island. So I ran into it, died, waited for the game to load, and it actually worked! Oh my god, I can't believe it. Since we have a solution to getting up here, I decided to get this random shine floating over the water. And we can barely get it since the glacier requires a tight crouch jump, and that nets us the 15th shine. There isn't much to say about the second Bowser fight since it was the same thing but required more hits. After that, I noticed the bunny and decided to go for it without Plessy. And to nobody's surprise, that isn't gonna work, so all of those shines are gonna be impossible. To get to Cat Pom Pom, I had to climb up the tower for real this time, but the jump to the first question mark block was way too far away from the island. So I've got one option left, and that is to bust out 2-player mode. Now we get to talk about Bowser Jr. He is a pain in the ass. So the plan was to position him halfway between the island and the block, but if you keep Bowser Jr. still for too long, he just moves somewhere else automatically for no reason. So what I basically had to do was position Bowser Jr. and immediately switch controllers to jump. And thankfully, it is actually possible to clear, despite Bowser Jr. being super janky. The rest of the climbing was just ground pounding and crouch jumps, and Pom Pom was of course an easy boss, getting ourselves another shine. Now this next part is kind of hilarious. I genuinely thought that I was soft locked inside the castle because I can't make it to this block with a crouch jump. But with another super precise Bowser Jr. bounce, you can get across and make your way to the exit. Back at Icicle Hell, I found another purple switch, and thank God, it was just another enemy bout. I know most of these purple switches don't give you this, so I'm glad to have found another one for another shine. And with that out of the way, how on earth am I gonna climb up this island? There's no way I can— Oh, well, that was easy. Are you serious? I can't propel while I'm crouched? Oh, well that's just lovely. Thank you so much, video game, thank you. Thankfully, I've learned about an exploit from being in the Mario 3D World Speedrunning Discord. If you jump with a propeller box and bounce off Bowser Jr., you can propel yourself in the air. In fact, you can bounce off Bowser Jr. twice before it stops working. Several attempts at this exploit later, I finally got one of these jumps and made my way up top. But I had to do this again, and oh crap, the platforms are moving now! I'm not gonna lie, I've got some decent hand-eye coordination, but there was no way I was doing this on my own. Thankfully, my friend Chari5 was able to control Bowser Jr. himself, so this isn't over yet. Another scary bounce later, I made my way to the top and I couldn't believe how far we've come. This was when I made my next breaking discovery, the Tanuki Leaf. It was a relief to be able to float finally. Oh, but that's not the best part. For whatever reason, this power-up paired with the propeller box allowed me to use the propeller while crouching. I have no idea why this works, but holy crap, I've stumbled upon something that might make this challenge doable. Things weren't quite over yet though, as Fury Bowser just decided to spawn in, and I still had rotating platforms to worry about. but little by little, I made my way up, trying to avoid the flames or I'd lose my propeller. And by some miracle, I actually made my way to the top to get the shine. I can't believe this can be done still. Since I was already up here, I went for the rest of the missing shards. After collecting all of those, I took my propeller back to other islands. And yes, going in the water also gets rid of the propeller, so I have to be really careful. And of course, a couple minutes later, Fury Bowser makes me run into water. Thank you! So you know what? Screw it! Bowser's Flames opened up this castle and I fought Cat Boom Boom again. And it still wasn't that difficult, so shine number 20 we got. The third Bowser fight went down exactly the same as last time, and the next shine was another Bowser block. I took advantage of the Tanuki and propeller combo to get to this cloud for another shine. The reason I didn't go for this before was because jumping off the tip of the tree would have counted as a normal jump, so I had to wait to do this. And this level was pretty simple. Take out all the enemies and grab the prize. The shards that I couldn't get before were now accessible with a propeller, so I went ahead and grabbed those too. I was one to take this propeller Tanuki combo all the way back to the beginning, but there's of course a huge belly of water in the way. So that's when I figured out that I could hop from rock to rock to get across. And man, I was so happy when I discovered this. And of course, Fury Bowser came in and ruined everything. Look, I'm not gonna lie, he is really starting to get obnoxious. So instead, I got another Bowser block shine. Next, I got the missing shards at Scamper Shore since I didn't think of using Bowser Jr. beforehand. Once that was taken care of, I started working on the first Fury Shadow mini-boss. And this was so much easier than I thought it'd be. By staying in one spot and using Bowser Jr. to hit him, I didn't have to do anything with Mario besides get the shine at the end. Now, I forgot to record getting this next shine, but all I did was smash one of these bricks with Bowser Jr. and crawled my way through. At this point in the game, I hopped around for a while trying to find anything else I could do. I had just about used all the easy shines I knew of and wasn't sure what else to do next. I did find this key, but of course I can't pick it up unless I stop crouching. Bowser Jr. can technically push it, but if the key isn't in my hands for longer than like 10 seconds, it'll blink and go back to where it started. So that means that every key mission is impossible. I guess I'll hit this purple switch and, oh great, it wants me to quickly scurry to the star. Really? But you know, closely analyzing it, it didn't actually seem that far away. So I actually attempted it a few times. And while it took some trial and error and near perfect optimization, I managed to get this shine in the nick of time. The next one was literally right next to me and just needed to float down to get it. After that, I went for my first blue coin mission and thought I wouldn't be able to do it, but the timer was super generous for the coins. After hopping and getting the first set of them, I controlled Bowser Jr. and just ran into the rest of them. After several more minutes of looking around, I stumbled onto another set of Bowser blocks. I went back to the castle and managed to get a few more shards, but one of them was still a bit out of reach. I found yet another purple switch, which seemed doable now since I had the Tanuki and propeller combo. And after a few tries, I got to the shine with barely any time to spare yet again. And after an excruciatingly long swim, I made it to the Roiling Roller Isle, and I was not excited. I was now forced to try the harder islands, and this one had tons of rotating platforms, which makes crouching and sliding to my death very easy. For some reason, my amiibo wasn't working here, so I guess I'll save this shine for later. At first, the jump seemed simple enough. Just make sure the slants are mostly straight and I won't slide into the lava. That couldn't have been farther from the truth. The accuracy that you need to get across is just dumb. If you start sliding at any point, accept your defeat and try again. There is no way to recover from sliding since you have to always hold crouch. I will say that I'm glad there was easy access to Tanuki leaves to help, but that barely makes these jumps easier. In so many instances, it seemed like my jump and landing was safe, but the game said otherwise and I just took a bath in the lava. Thankfully, Fury Bowser kicked in at some point, so I could get rid of those Bowser blocks finally from earlier. But back to the rotating crap. I figured I might as well go for the cat shards while learning how to climb up. After about 30 more attempts, I discovered that I could land on this super long piece, waddle for a couple seconds, and clear the jump that way. And guess what? That was the easy section. But hey, at least I finally found a strategy for it. Before I could even try the next part, Fury Bowser dropped by to destroy some bricks and just ruin my day entirely. Dozens of tries later, I found out that by landing on these stairs, I could get myself to the following blue section. But then after that, I would usually just slide down and hit the lava in some stupid way. And you want to know what really made this whole process so painful? How long it took to retry. It takes like 2 minutes to climb back up just to try again once, and each death felt worse than the last. On one of these attempts, I was at least able to get the the cat shard hiding behind the gray bricks, which is good, because getting the rest of them won't be that bad. I really am so glad Bowser Jr. can get these damn things. I don't know if I'd be able to get them while crouching. Eventually, after even more attempts, I got all the shards and got another shine. I was now at a point where I desperately needed help. I had been at this island for over an hour with seemingly no way to get up. I at least knew what I had to do for the most part, but I was held back by this super long green piece. Its sheer length made it impossible to climb while crouching, and that is where I was at a loss. So Chari5 took a hold of Bowser Jr. once again, and we started to come up with ideas. The only thing we thought would be feasible is to crouch jump, then bounce off Bowser Jr. 2 times in a row so I'd land near the top. We had a lot of really close attempts, but I just wasn't getting enough height to avoid slipping. And then, after countless attempts, I landed on top of the green platform, finally! After almost 2 hours of tries, we managed to get this stupid shine. Game, just have some mercy after this, okay? We have reached a point where co-op was going to be mostly necessary for the shines, because next was another obstacle course to climb. Chari5 was also learning how much Bowser Jr. is a pain to use. He would line up exactly where he would need to go, and then out of nowhere, Bowser Jr. would just move out of the way, messing up everything. We basically needed to perform 2 sets of double bounces and 1 single bounce to get this shine. This was our best try. That was way too close. We went back to the castle now to get that last shard now that we've gotten better at double bounces. First, we had to bounce our way to this area and then bounce up to this platform. Being so high up, I could move the camera so we could actually see where the last shard was to grab. I'm still kind of shocked there was a way to get all these shards, even with the help from Bowser Jr. But now, back to my favorite island, a purple switch appeared, which means I have another jump challenge to do. While I didn't need Bowser Jr. this time, the distance to cover was much greater than usual. I went for this one like 10 times before I realized that I need to use the rotating blue pieces to my advantage. And just like that, another stupidly close shine is captured. After all of this struggle, returning to previous islands either had key shines I couldn't get, or really easy ones like taking out these Magic Koopas. I used Bowser Jr. to smack them all and finish up. Following that was another Fury Shadow, and again, I just used Bowser Jr. to hit him. It's honestly kind of surprising that Fury Shadow will only go so far away from Mario. He's just making himself bait for us. Next was yet another Bowser fight, but this time, he wasn't ground pounding. This was concerning since I thought that maybe I'd be forced to pick up these giant sticks and start crouching. But that's when I learned that Bowser's meteors can be bounced back and hit him. Because of the meteors, this fight can also be done with crouching. After the fight, I was once again looking for several minutes for shines that could be attempted, and I found a Bowser block shine that I somehow missed entirely. I'm not gonna complain though, we're getting close. But even being close, there were only like 2 more shines I could try. Things were really starting to look grim, and this one that I'm showing you wasn't successful. But Chari5 and I spent forever optimizing the route, so I've got to bring this up. So basically, there's 3 sets of blue coins to grab, and we started with Bowser Jr. getting the ones on the end while I would get the ones at the beginning. The problem with that was just how strict the timer was for the second and third set of blue coins. But man, we tried so goddamn hard to make this work. We were so optimized that Bowser Jr. would ground pound the blue coin switch, get all the coins as I'm jumping, then we'd have just enough time to get all the coins on the clouds. But what made this impossible was the third set of blue coins. While figuring out where all the coins spawned, we found that the last 3 blue coins are all the way at the end. What this would entail is for Chari5 to essentially get all the blue coins at the end, but also get them completely blind. If this is even possible, please send us a clip on Twitter or something, but we decided to go for something else, and that is another blue coin challenge. This one was much more manageable as the timer was pretty generous. It only took us a few attempts to get all these. But now I was literally out of shines to get. The only thing I could do was somehow access Pipe Path Path Tower, Ricky Whisker Island, or Mount Magmeow. But unfortunately, none of those islands were open and I can't jump up this bridge. We found another patch of land and thought we could maybe reach this shine surrounded in goo, but even with a double bounce, it was way too far away. We eventually found this random purple switch, and it was actually another enemy fight. So while that's nice, it doesn't really solve our problem. We still need 6 more shines. But I had one final idea, and that is to sequence break. When Fury Bowser shows up, these massive ramps ascend near this bridge that you would normally use for Plessie to cross. With a lot of Tanuki Leafs in stock and an extra jump from Bowser Jr., I thought we could reach Pipe Path Tower from this bridge. On our first try, we missed the bounce, but we had extra leaves. On our third try, I jumped, floated down, bounced off Bowser Jr., and we have landed! Okay, I cannot choke now. I've only got 3 more Tanuki Leaves left, and Fury Bowser has a clear and clean target on me. One more jump, we made it across, but I also lost a suit. I've only got 1 extra suit left, so I had to make this count. I'm almost at the clear pipes. We are right there, but Bowser's flames missed! Oh my god, this is our chance. Bowser gives us some more platforms by some miracle, and I hop on them and actually make it inside a clear pipe. After leaving the first pipe, I see that glorious entrance text, which I think confirms that we made it without clearing out the goo. Just to be safe, I go to the main portion of the wasteland, regardless if I get hit or not. After all of that, now it was time. Did the sequence break work? Will we actually warp here after this death? No way. It worked! It actually worked! We actually have a chance at getting 50 shines! While I was careening in joy at the fact Cherry 5 got the last shard here and we could continue. Next was another Fury Shadow Shine, which was really easy, and following that was a Bowser Block Shine. I can't believe we got access to another one of these. Beaming with confidence, we double boosted our way to a shine that would normally require the cat suit, but that didn't matter to us. Following that was another shine just floating in the sky. We went back to Pipe Path Tower to nab a shine at the top, and we got our final one with the last shard piece. We actually did it! 50 shines while only crouching! All that's left now is the final boss. The first phase is basically the same thing we've been doing, just wait for Bowser to be on his back and ground pound. But the second phase forces us to use Plessie as there's no way to get to Bowser. So I jumped onto Plessie and wanted to see if I could hit him without jumping. And believe it or not, there is one ramp where you actually can. It happens to be at the very end of the loop, which means it takes an extremely long time to hit Bowser just once. But after 4 hits, I can confirm that it is possible to beat Bowser's Fury while only crouching. It is an extremely tedious and exhausting adventure, but it can be done. I want to give an absolutely huge thank you to Chari5 for allowing this challenge to be possible. Without him controlling Bowser Jr. at the end, there is no way I'd have been able to get through this. So make sure to check out his Super Mario RPG video in the end card. And with all that said, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.